you're allowing all the athletes to compete the first 2 days, and then there are cuts that cut it down to 30. And I noticed right away at the top there was a comment from my boy Brandon Luckett.
What did he say?
He said something along the lines like, "I thought you weren't going to screw the athletes again this year." Did you have any hesitancy making these cuts? What did you do? You think about that? Do you see this as a participatory event at this level, or do you see it more as what I would call, and I know it's a presupposition, but as a professional event? And hey, man, you're here. Get in where you fit in.
I skew towards the latter in what you said. I don't appreciate that comment that you just said. He said only to create this narrative or to create this perception that the mechanism of having cuts at the games is a way to screw over the athletes. I think that's unfair of him to say or insinuate or to plant in people's heads. So I don't really. It has nothing. Cuts have nothing to do with screwing over athletes. Cuts have there's a we're testing for the fittest alive. We're testing for the top athletes in the world. And as you make cuts and when you go deeper in the field and narrow it down, you're able to have a little more flexibility and get a little creative and do things that might be time impossible or restrictive with gear to do with larger fields. We've done it before, but also cuts have been something that's been in our DNA for the games for a very long time. So there's a point in the competition. So our first cut is after 9 events. It's all day Wednesday, these athletes get to compete. All day Friday, these athletes get a cut. And after 9 events, there's 10 cut. Basically a quarter of the field gets cut. There's a point where you're no longer there to contend. There's a point where you're no longer there to make an impact on the top. And at that point, it is entirely participatory. And at that point, you're just being drug along. And yeah, frankly, at the end of the weekend, maybe we should give you a participatory award. But I've always been an advocate of cuts. There was a year we went away from them for those reasons I just stated. It gives us the ability to get a little more creative on the schedule. It doesn't have these knockout dog dick dragon days that go from 9 to 9 every day because we have a full field of athletes and because frankly it's more inclusive in that area. At this point, we're testing for the fittest alive, and you had your chance. You had 9 events to prove that you can advance, and then you advance to the 30, and we give you a chance to prove that you can advance to the next stage, and then we're stopping at 20. And honestly, frankly, there was a version of this that cut down to 10, and the final day had 10 going through for the last few workouts. Some of our team, for a multitude of reasons, didn't like that, so we went back and forth, and we're settling on cuts of or getting down to 20, which is totally fair. Plenty of opportunity to make it in advance. And again, I take offense to this narrative that's a mechanism for disrespecting or treating the athletes poorly. It's not at all. You have plenty of opportunity to prove and to advance. And I mean, man, look at this. This is hilarious. People will travel to Japan this year for the Olympics, and in 8 seconds, or actually not 8, call it 10.5, 10.4, and 10.5, 10.4 seconds in their first heat of the 100-meter dash, their Olympics are over. And so this notion of people traveling and then, getting cut, they're traveling and then they're getting cut after 9 events. So it's not really there. So that narrative, I won't stand for that narrative. I won't stand idle or silent for that narrative of this is a way of treating the athletes poorly. Also, I'll tell you this much: the first year, so 19, when Greg did all the major changes to the format, and we had all those country champions there. Same thing, man. Like there, I had here, if we were cutting 40 athletes after one event, I would listen to that and I would hear that argument a little more, but that's not the case here. There, even cutting 150 after one event, I was comfortable with because so many of them didn't belong there even after one event. And that was kind of the statement there. Is like it was one pretty well-programmed event to narrow the field down a lot.
And in the Olympics, you could actually be cooled even quicker than 10.5 or 11.5 seconds. It's just the length that it takes to swab your nose. You could be out in 2 seconds.
I mean, the same might be said here, right?
Right. Do the athletes get tested there, or do they have to show up with some proof that they're clear of the virus?
Um, as tested. I imagine they're tested. I haven't. That's a good question. I'll find out.
Did you get your results back?
Yeah, I'm good.